JANNIK Sinner explained the changes he made since the US Open to return to number 1. 2 brilliant weeks have been lived by JANNIK Sinner on this indoor hardcourt tour in Europe. First came the crown at the ATP 500 in Vienna, then he triumphed this Sunday at the Paris Masters 1000, events where he has reaffirmed that he is a step above the rest, even while battling some physical issues due to the natural wear and tear at this stage of the season. The 24-year-old Italian has shined again since losing the US Open final to Carlos Alcaraz, and in an interview after defeating Felix Auger-Aliassime in the French capital, he revealed what he has changed or done in recent months. "I'm not doing anything special, I'm just trying to do what all the other players do, try to improve. I put a lot of effort into it and try to step out of my comfort zone many times, especially in training, to understand what aspects can help me in the future. Sometimes you don't play to win every point but to try something different. I try to play with the score, if I'm a break-up, I try to be more aggressive," he explained. Sinner stated that it was not his goal and that finishing 2025 at the top is not entirely in his hands. "It's not only in my hands, but I'm happy to be there. I knew the opportunity was there from the start of the week. However, I try to give my best in every tournament I play, and it'll be the same in Turin. The goal here was to maximize my potential day by day, and I've achieved that. Now it's time to recharge and be ready for a good week of tennis in Turin," Sinner concluded. Alcaraz's challenge to regain world number 1. The Spaniard gives up his top spot to JANNIK Sinner, who returns to the top of the ATP ranking 9 weeks later. Sinner secured his 5th title of the year in the French capital, the 23rd of his career. Thanks to the victory, his second in just a week after triumphing in Vienna, the Italian begins his 66th week at the top of the ATP rankings. But his stay at the summit may be short-lived, as Alcaraz has many chances to reclaim the position. Alcaraz's options. Alcaraz can regain the number 1 ranking in several ways, all of which depend on the ATP Finals in Turin, to be held from November 9 to 16. The Spaniard will return to the top if he wins 3 matches in the tournament, whether all 3 in the group stage or 2 in the group stage plus 1 in the semifinals. There's also a possibility that by winning just 1 match he could overtake Sinner. In that case, the Italian would need to remain undefeated throughout the tournament to stay number 1. It's worth remembering that Sinner will defend the title he won at last year's ATP Finals. The Italian has a great challenge ahead. Striking message from JANNIK Sinner after the Paris final. JANNIK Sinner was satisfied and happy to have regained the world number 1 spot after winning the Paris Masters, though he remains cautious. The Italian, who didn't hide his joy after beating Felix Auger-Aliassime in the final of the French tournament, repeated several times that it doesn't depend entirely on him and that he won't be focused on what Carlos Alcaraz does at the ATP Finals. It seemed unlikely that JANNIK Sinner could return to the top of the ATP rankings after being forced to retire in the 3rd round of the Shanghai Masters with physical problems. But the titles he won within just 1 week in Vienna and Paris, along with Alcaraz's precautionary withdrawal from the Asian event and, above all, his shock first-round loss to Cameron Norrie, have propelled Sinner back to number 1 ahead of the season's final event. Despite that, Sinner remains very cautious, since finishing the year as number 1 for a second straight season doesn't depend solely on him. "Well, it doesn't only depend on me, but of course I'm happy. I knew from the start of the week that this possibility existed. But as I said before the final, before each tournament or each match, I try to give my best on the court, and then we'll see what happens," he said in a press conference after the final against Felix Auger-Aliassime. "And that's how I went out on court. In Turin, I'll do the same. I'll focus on my side of the court and play the best tennis I can, and if I can't win, then I can't win. The goal this week was to go day by day, trying to maximize my potential, something I've done, and I'm very happy. As I said, now it's time to recharge and, hopefully, be as ready as possible for Turin, where we hope to have a great week of tennis," concluded the man from San Candido. Sinner must win the ATP Finals undefeated once again to put more pressure on Carlos Alcaraz, who is now forced to win at least 3 matches, either all in the group stage or a combination of group and knockout rounds. Any early losses from the Italian will ease the pressure on the Spaniard, who nevertheless arrives with doubts after a poor showing in Paris and will face tough top 10 opponents. JANNIK Sinner conquers the Paris Masters 1000 and regains world number 1. JANNIK Sinner defeated Felix Auger-Aliassime in the final of the Paris Masters 1000 and returned to the top of the world rankings, displacing Carlos Alcaraz. The Italian JANNIK Sinner closed a perfect week at the Paris Masters 1000 by defeating Canada's Felix Auger-Aliassime on Sunday, November 2, by 6-4, 7-6, 4. With this victory, the 24-year-old not only claimed his first Masters 1000 of the year but also regained the world number 1 ranking, once again taking it from Spain's Carlos Alcaraz. The triumph in the French capital marks Sinner's 26th consecutive indoor win, on a surface where he has been practically unbeatable. This title is his 5th of the 2025 season, the 23rd of his career, and his 5th Masters 1000, his first since Shanghai 2024. After winning the Australian Open and Wimbledon, the Italian has confirmed his dominance on the circuit. Since July, he has lost only 3 matches, 2 due to retirement, and has collected titles in Vienna, Paris, and 2 other tournaments, solidifying himself as the most consistent player of 2025. The Italian's rise is even more remarkable considering that at the start of the season, he served a temporary suspension for doping, from which he returned stronger than ever. In Paris, he completed the tournament without dropping a set, something that hadn't happened in a Masters 1000 since Indian Wells 2023, when Alcaraz achieved it. With this new trophy, Sinner joins the select group of active players with 5 or more Masters 1000 titles, alongside Novak Djokovic, 40, Alcaraz, 8, Alexander Zverev, 7, and Daniil Medvedev, 6. Return to the world throne. In the final, Sinner was superior from the start. He broke Auger Aliassime's serve in the opening game and never relinquished control. He dominated with his serve, conceding only 3 points in the entire first set. Although the Canadian raised his level in the second set and forced a tiebreak, the Italian maintained his composure and sealed the victory in just over an hour and a half. Thus, JANNIK Sinner regains the top of the tennis world, a position he had lost in August after falling to Alcaraz in the US Open final. However, his lead could be brief. In the coming weeks, he will compete in the ATP Finals in Turin, where he defends 1,500 points, while Alcaraz needs only 3 wins to reclaim the number 1 spot. These are the scenarios for Alcaraz to recover world number 1 at the ATP Finals. Alcaraz will finish the year as ATP world number 1 if Sinner does not win the title. He wins all 3 group stage matches. He reaches the final having won 1 or 2 group stage matches. He wins 2 matches and Sinner wins the title but loses 1 match. He wins 1 group stage match and Sinner wins the title but loses 2 matches. We analyze in detail what Alcaraz needs to dethrone JANNIK Sinner at the 2025 ATP Finals. JANNIK Sinner insults his coach in a courtside outburst as his future remains uncertain. JANNIK Sinner's frustrations boiled over on Friday night during the Paris Masters quarterfinals when he was caught cursing at his team mid-match against Ben Shelton. Despite taking the first set and leading 3-1 in the second, the Italian began muttering toward his box after being broken at love, demanding to know why they were effing sitting down. Sinner managed to regain his composure and secured a 6-3 win, but his future with coach Darren Cahill remains uncertain, as Cahill is expected to leave the team at the end of the season. His quarterfinal against Shelton told a similar story, with Sinner looking shaky at times but still winning in straight sets. The 4-time major champion expressed his frustration with his team early in the second set, urging them to show more energy. After playing a sloppy game, Sinner gestured toward his box, waving his arms. Commentator Adam Fielder noted, "You don't see that often from Sinner. I think he was just asking his team to stand up. They found it pretty funny." Darren Cahill stayed firmly seated. Shelton immediately broke back, prompting Sinner to confront his coaches during a changeover. "I'm up a break, and you're effing sitting down," he vented to Cahill and the team, who responded with shouts of Forza. Sinner went on to secure another break late in the second set, thanks to a Shelton double fault, giving the Italian a chance to serve for the match, which he did successfully, sealing his semi-final spot with a winner. The 24-year-old may need to tread carefully with Cahill, as he hopes to convince the esteemed Australian coach to remain with his team. At the start of the season, Cahill announced that this would be his final year coaching Sinner. However, after Sinner's Wimbledon victory, Cahill appeared to reconsider. When asked if he might change his mind, Cahill replied, "I don't want to answer that. You know what? You'll have to ask JANNIK." During the Italian segment of his press conference shortly after, Sinner joked, "It depends on whether I want to tell the truth or not. We made a bet before the final. I told him that if I won, he could choose whether to stay or not at the end of the year. Now the choice is mine." As the 2025 season draws to a close, Sinner and Cahill have yet to discuss their future plans. Before last week's Vienna Open, the world number 2 told ATP media, "To be honest, we haven't talked yet. We said we'd finish the year and then have a long chat to see if I can convince him. But either way, whether he stays or not, he's been an incredible person and obviously a coach who held the whole team together during tough times. He's like a second father to me, so I'm happy to have him here. It's a great privilege to work with him. Our goal is very positive, for him to stay, and I'll need a lot of hope for that." JANNIK Sinner continues to keep aside the possibility of regaining the world number 1 ranking at the conclusion of the 2025 Paris Masters if he manages to lift the title. The Italian, who is already in the semifinals after defeating Ben Shelton, again showing some physical doubts, admits he's still going step by step, cautiously facing each challenge, with the next being Alexander Zverev. With a match-by-match mentality, JANNIK Sinner continues pursuing his goal of returning to world number 1 at the conclusion of the 2025 Paris Masters. The Italian needs to lift the title in the French capital to reach the top once again, at least for a few days, and take the spot from Carlos Alcaraz. He doesn't want to focus on that, though. Instead, he's focused on overcoming each remaining obstacle, 2 away from winning the championship.